In the season finale, episode 9, we begin with a pregnant woman running through the forest, just kind of scared and looking behind her, and then continuing running until she makes it to a house which seems to be familiar enough to her. She's kind of checking to see if anyone's there, specifically people she knows. After a bit, she realizes that her water has broke and that she's about to give birth, and she goes upstairs and blocks the door in the room that she's put herself in, and realizes that she's probably going to have to give birth without any help. And then suddenly the door is violently knocked at, and it's eventually broken down, and out comes an infected who she's able to fend off with her switchblade that she has with her, and stabs it. Unfortunately, she finds out she was bitten in the thigh, but also finds out that she gave birth right away from the stress of everything. So she, wraps the baby up and names her Ellie. And then all of a sudden, a couple of people show up to see what's going on, and they find her. And it turns out to be Marlene. And she gives her the baby and tells her to get out of there. But before that, Marlene gives her friend the baby and goes over to the woman to shoot her to make sure she doesn't suffer as an infected. Unfortunately, the guy she gave it to didn't cover the baby's ears, so there's kind of an implication of, at least a little bit of partial deafness, maybe. And then we cut to present day, where Ellie is just kind of sitting on the back of a truck, thinking to herself, and Joel, is coming over, asking for her, and comes closer, and finally gets her attention, which is kind of where the implication of partial deafness comes in, which I guess might have been something that we didn't notice throughout the series, or maybe it came back at some point, or a little later on, I'm not sure. But they, continue their journey to find the fireflies, and during all of that, Joel has been trying to be a bit more upbeat, positive with her, probably to cheer her up after all that's happened, and even convinces her at one point to read from the little pun book to, I guess, cheer them both up. Later on, as they go through the city, they go to a dilapidated football stadium to find some giraffes, a family of giraffes kind of roaming through. And Joel and Ellie start, feeding it some leaves. And then they, find the family of giraffes. And it's kind of a nice little touching moment. And then the two of them also, check out the city view a bit and get to talking particularly about how, Ellie's been basically spending most of her life, being a potential cure, and that she's not going to go halfway with this whole journey, as much as Joel, says that they could stop at any point. Later on, Joel also mentions, as they're, taking a breather on the streets, that there's a point where he tried to kill himself after the apocalypse and after Sarah's death, finding no point, but he kind of flinched but still pulled the trigger and ended up, scarring the side of his head, which, he shows the scar. and, sort of reveals to Ellie a bit that she's kind of the reason he's, found more purpose in life again. He doesn't explicitly, say all this, but she is basically a daughter to him. And that's, kind of been teased throughout the whole series, especially the last episode. After they continue walking on, they are ambushed by some people with a sort of flash grenade, and Ellie is taken away as Joel is knocked out by the butt of a gun. And then Joel wakes up after a moment to find himself in a hospital room, lying on a medical bed or whatever. Met with two guys holding guns, and then out comes Marlene, who tells Joel that they finally have Ellie and they can start making the cure, but also mentions that she's prepped for surgery. And of course Joel is a little confused and worried, and Marlene mentions that a doctor revealed through x-rays that the infection or whatever is causing the immunity has built up and developed in her head or in her brain, so they're going to have to basically kill her to get all of that out and possibly make a cure for the infection. Of course Joel is very upset about that, but Marlene won't take any chances, so she has the two guys take Joel away, and they start doing that. And just as they get down a flight of stairs, Joel knocks one of them down, shoots the one guy, and then shoots the other guy in the crotch, and tries to make him tell him where Ellie is. He doesn't, and just shoots him in the face anyway. Then he goes back upstairs and starts shooting a bunch of other armed guys to get to Ellie. And after this, whole bloodbath, he makes his way to the pediatric surgery area and finds, the room where Ellie's being operated in. And before any of that can start, he tells the doctors to unhook her. And when the main surgeon, tries to protest, he gets shot in the head. And and then Joel makes the other nurses unhook her, and he takes her away. Just as he, gets to the parking lot to put her in a freshly fueled car, Marlene comes behind him holding a gun, saying that he doesn't have to do this, and then they can, continue. But Joel isn't going to take any chances like that. He's too far gone with that. And it then cuts to Joel driving away, and it's nice and sunny outside, and we see Ellie lying down in the back seat, and she wakes up, and Joel tells her that they had her prepped for surgery, but then they found a bunch of other immune people and discovered that there is no cure. And then the hospital was invaded by raiders, and he was only able to get her out, and that Marlene's fate is unknown, despite also cutting to Joel shooting Marlene, still taking no chances, and decides to finish her off, saying that, she might try to follow him and take her away. A while later, Ellie's able to get some new clothes, and Joel takes her kind of hiking a little bit, mentioning that Sarah used to like hiking a little bit, but not too much. at least with the outdoors, because of the mosquitoes. And Ellie then, mentions to Joel, the first person she killed, which was her friend Riley, and that, her whole life was leading up to that, to the cure and all that, and now it's for nothing. And she also asks Joel to swear that he's telling the truth about there being no cure and all of that. And Joel swears. And the final shot is, Ellie looking at him with possible doubt. And that was the season finale of The Last of Us. This was a pretty good episode. It's kind of short compared to the other ones. Kind of wish it went a little longer, but I still enjoyed it. It packed quite a bit of emotion in just 43 minutes or 45 minutes, and did a lot with it. It really kind of reminds you just how much Ellie means to Joel in the end, despite the rough beginning for them, and just how much Joel was not willing to let go. It's, of course, a very polarizing type of ending. I'm sure some would very much find it that. And Joel's actions are basically selfish, but that is the very interesting and complex thing about this story and its ending. The fact that everything has built up to almost nothing. The cure can no longer be, attempted at, and, everything's just the way it has been. So, yeah, who knows if the cure could be made, and if, it would have been all for naught regardless if, Ellie was killed during the surgery. Because, there's kind of it's almost confusing, but I'd say it's almost like a tease that Ellie was almost kind of maybe knocked out before she was actually put on the drugs for before surgery, and that she didn't actually, agree to the possibility that she might die as a result. So who knows about those details? But that's the interesting thing. There's not complete answer to any of these questions. Obviously, sometimes confusing endings aren't as a result of, an overall message about how life is full of unanswered questions, but I feel like this is the perfect ending for that type of underlying theme. That life is full of unanswered questions, and sometimes you have to make impulsive decisions, even if, the result is terrible, at least for some. But yeah, that was the final episode of Season 1 of The Last of Us. Seeing how it officially says season finale, there'll probably be more seasons to come, but we'll have to wait and find out. I guess the only thing that I have to say otherwise is that the performances were still great. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are a great, duo cast, and they've killed it as Joel and Ellie, and I can't wait to see them return if they possibly can. I'm gonna give episode 9 a 9 out of 10. Now, in terms for the show itself, or at least season 1 itself, I'd say it's a really good series, or a really good season, and it's done so much with what it has a great cast of characters, a great story, and I just can't say any more other than I'll give season 1 a 10 out of 10, my first 10 out of 10 ever. And that is The Last of Us, at least for now. I hope you enjoyed this review series. I'm really glad to make it. This was probably one of my favorite TV shows of 2023 so far, and I'm happy that I watched it, and I'm happy that I got to share my thoughts with you guys. And I do hope we get another season, because this is a great cast and a great production team and writers. I can't say any more other than go watch it if you haven't. And I will see you guys next time, and I hope you guys have a good day. Goodbye.